So the war in Ukraine is a war that the U.S. caused. Not a war that Putin caused, but a war that the U.S. caused by expanding the military alliance, NATO, eastward, and trying to set up a military base or bases in Ukraine and in the South Caucasus, especially the country Georgia. And the Russian government said, no, you can't have military bases on our border. We don't accept that. That's a real security threat for us. And the American position was, it's none of your business, Russia, what we do. If Ukraine says yes, we're going to put our missiles next to you. And President Putin said, no, you're not. That's dangerous for us. And the United States said, it's none of your business. And so this is the essence of the Ukraine conflict, which is that the U.S. said we can expand our military reach anywhere. The Russians said not on our border, and it finally came to war. Before it came to war, the government in Ukraine in 2010 was very clever. It said, we want neutrality. Well, read Thucydides. The Americans did not accept Ukraine's call for neutrality. What did the United States do to the president who wanted neutrality? It overthrew that president in February 2014. So the U.S. made a coup together with Ukrainian forces. The U.S. role was quite obvious, though it was denied, so we can call it a covert regime change operation. I happen to have been told by some of the participants just how much the U.S. played a role. And at a crucial moment, a phone call by the U.S. diplomat, Victoria Nuland, was intercepted by the Russians and posted online. And that call said the next government should be so-and-so, which was the next government, actually. So the U.S. chose the next government. And where is Victoria Nuland today? She is my colleague at Columbia University. So this is the route to success. Make a coup, and then you get to be a Columbia professor. So this is the Ukraine conflict. President Trump came into office saying, I want to stop this war because it's useless, and the Russians are winning on the battlefield. But interestingly, President Trump does not have the power or the logic to stop the war because he can't say publicly the obvious. He can't say to the American people, NATO will not expand. If he says that, he's declared, you're a weakling, you're a traitor, you're making a concession to President Putin, you're giving up, you're on the payroll of the Russians. And so the imperial logic still prevails, even if the individual as president might want to do something different. Of course, none of us can figure out Donald Trump's mentality, not even Donald Trump. So we don't know what he really, truly thinks, but what I know is that he seems to want to end the Ukraine war, but does not have the political strength and the individual leadership to end it because all around him is the military-industrial complex that says the U.S. can go where it wants. Then comes the Middle East conflict, second conflict. This is also an imperial conflict. It started, of course, as so many conflicts do, with the British. And the conflict with Ukraine, by the way, started with the British because in 1853, Britain went to war against Russia for exactly the same reason that the United States went to war against Russia in 2014. Britain said we need to weaken Russia in 1853. So the war in Ukraine is like the 19th century Crimean War, almost the same actors, but the United States wasn't involved in the first one, but Britain was involved in both of them. When it comes to the Middle East, this is also a crisis made by Britain. And it comes from World War I, as you know, when Ottoman Empire, which ruled the Middle East, was defeated by the Allied powers, the US, France, and Britain. And Britain was the dominant imperial power of the age, especially in the Middle East. It ruled over Egypt, it ruled over Aden, which is Yemen today, because this was the route to Britain's empire in India, the sea route. And so Britain was very careful to control the whole sea lane from the Mediterranean to India. And India was the crown jewel of the British Empire. So at the end of World War I, when the Turkish Empire was defeated, Britain aimed to control all of this territory. And it made many promises and many contradictory promises to other powers. Britain told the Arabs, you will control this region. Britain told the French, you will control this region. Britain told the Jews, you will control this region. And of course, Britain ultimately wanted to control the region. So this was typical British imperial deceit or duplicity. But one of the outcomes was the Balfour Declaration, in which Britain called for the establishment of a Jewish homeland in what was a province of the Ottoman Empire and which became known as Palestine after World War I, which was the ancient Roman name that was used for this territory also. So Britain took over Palestine under the League of Nations, and it said that this would be a Jewish homeland. This is a very complicated, weird story, because the Jewish faith had its main temple in this place 2,000 years earlier, but it had been banished from this place by the Roman Empire in the year 135 AD. And now it was recreating this ancient state. The only problem was that 95% of the population was Arabs who did not want a Jewish homeland in this territory. But Britain used its imperial power to force the in-migration of people of Jewish religion, especially from Eastern Europe, to claim a part of British-controlled Palestine. And a very long story, that has led to 100 years of crisis.
偷偷告诉大家，我最近发现了新法宝 Royal Face 逆时奇迹系列，它有活肤露、全效精华，还有精华霜。尤其我皮肤比较偏干，所以我非常的注重保湿。保湿做得好，肌肤自然烹润。提亮肤色更年轻，抚平皱纹超有感，而且气色变好。用心保养，每天都更美一点。美吧！